Hi, Deb here and welcome to my craft room. In this video we're going to be putting chameleon powders into the Resin Frog and Gecko moulds. But I wanted to see the difference in in different ways I could do the eyes. So here you can see me putting in Sophie and Toffee black 3D UV resin, that was a mouthful, into the eyes of the frog to see how it turns out. It was a really fiddly process. I don't think I'll be doing it like that again. It's now speeded up to ×4 the normal speed because you don't need to watch me doing everything individually. I'm cleaning off the excess bits here with cotton buds, pink miniature brushes and isopropyl alcohol. It's really fiddly to get into these because of the bit that hangs over underneath the head. It's quite difficult to get into. Now when I use the UV torch, I'm using it for a minute at a time. I didn't keep that bit in because you don't need to see a torch on a mould for a minute. Sorry I keep pulling it out of the picture, I'm just trying to get my head in there to have a good look and see what I've done. And now we put the main UV light over it for 2 minutes on each side. And these are the chameleon powders I'm using. I use the Resin Chameleon Powders, and there's the teal, which I'm using on the main body of the frog, and the grape, which I use on its legs. When you're doing this, when you've used resin, UV resin inside a mould, you have to be careful over where I've used it over the eyes. I had to be really careful because I didn't want it to come away, and UV resin, like normal resin, doesn't stick very well to silicone, which is why we use silicone for moulds. I love the colours of these chameleon powders. That teal I think is my favourite colour ever. And I'm a purple girl, but that teal is beautiful. And here I am cleaning off the chameleon powders from the legs and feet because I don't want the teal to be mixed in with the grape. I wanted them to be very separate on this particular piece. I'm less careful on the gecko. I was going to say chameleon. I'm less careful on the gecko because it didn't matter with that one so much. Getting those lids off was a bit of a pain as well, I have to say. They were sealed incredibly well. And here's the grape, which is very bluish. Beautiful colours. All of the chameleon powders, the Resin Chameleon Powders, are beautiful colours. When you're putting chameleon powders on to moulds and you're rubbing them in, you have to make sure that you put on enough powder, because otherwise you will see the resin through it. So that's all of the chameleon powders done now. I'm putting those two away, and I've mixed up 200 mils of JDiction 4-hour resin, and I put in 10 drops of Sophie and Toffee black Morandi pigment. And here I am mixing it to make sure it's all thoroughly mixed through. And then pouring it slowly into the mould so that the air bubbles have a chance to come back through under the head. I know that looks quite fast, but bearing in mind it is still going at times for the normal speed. And now I'm squidging around the front, and just watch my happy accident. Well, it's not a happy accident, it was silly. I made a mess. I'm always making a mess, I can't help it. I picked it up to make sure there was nothing in the head, and when I brought it back down, I didn't bring it down straight and tipped it everywhere. That is so me. And now I'm just making sure that all of the resin has gone into all the tips of the feet and toes, and because you want to make sure it's all in there, and try to make sure there's no air bubbles anywhere. I have to say, when I demolded this, I was very, very impressed. I didn't see any air bubbles at all, although I can see quite a lot on the surface there. And here I am spraying it with 99% isopropanol alcohol. And here is the gecko. What I think I'm going to do with this one is powder it all up and then wipe the powder away from the eyes. That's my intention. As you will see in a moment, I don't do that because I try to get the powder away from the eyes, and it is so difficult and so fiddly. I decide that's not the way I'm going to do it. I'm not the most patient person in the world, I have to say, and I'm not good with fiddly. And here, like I say, I'm not being so careful with the chameleon powder in this one. And in this I have used blue, that's the blue which I'm putting in there now. And in the legs I use the Galaxy. The legs and the sides of the stomach and everything, I use the Galaxy, which is beautiful colour. Beautiful colour. And once again, you have to make sure you've covered everything, otherwise the black will show through and it will sort of spoil the effect. Where I keep taking it away there, I'm blowing away the excess resin, the excess powder, because you don't want that sat in there. That was me trying to do the eyes and giving up, thinking no, I'm gonna just leave it, I'm not gonna mess about like that. I got very, very disheartened with it because it just, I don't know, it just didn't want to clean properly. And I wanted the eyes to be beautiful and glassy and black. But I kept wiping off too much, and then when I put a bit back, it went on it again, and I just gave up. So I've decided not to do the eyes the way I was going to. So here's what's left of the 200 mils that I used on the frog. I think it worked out that they were about 100 mils each. And I'm once again making sure it goes into the feet and toes. I can't remember if I told you if that this was JDiction's 4-hour demould resin. I probably told you with the frog, but I can't remember saying it, so I'll tell you now. I mixed up 200 mils of JDiction 4-hour resin, and that was 100 mils for the frog and 100 mils for the chameleon, gecko, whatever you want to call it. Spraying it with isopropyl alcohol and leaving it to cure. Right, here's the frog cured and me demoulding him. It's a bit tricky getting it out from between the legs, and I was a bit worried that I would rip the mould, but actually it came out quite easily. I did put mould release on the mould before I started. And here he is, and I absolutely love him. And now I am cutting off the excess with my craft knife because I over-poured it, I spilled it a little bit. So I'm just cutting off the excess. I do have a deburrer, but I felt with this, because the gaps are so small, that the craft knife would be better. And it did appear to work much better than the deburrer. Although I do use the deburrer a lot more than I use the knife. Now, I absolutely love this little frog, but he's not so little. I think he is adorable. And here's the gecko, all ready to be demoulded. Not so much overpour with the gecko as there was with the frog, because I was slightly more careful when I turned him out. Now, isn't he gorgeous? I love the blue and the galaxy on him. Absolutely beautiful. And once again, I have my craft knife out, trimming up the gecko. I know this looks quite dangerous, but bearing in mind I am speeding it up by ×4, and I was careful. No accidents occurred with the knife. And there he is finished. Oh, I missed the bit. I painted the eyes in the end with black acrylic paint, but unfortunately I didn't press record when I was doing it. I literally used black acrylic paint and a little tiny paintbrush to paint in his eyes, and this that I'm putting on now is single time, not 4 times. This is UV top coat that I'm putting on the top of his eyes, just to protect the paint and to make them really glossy and shiny. Fancy forgetting to press record. I'm a bit silly like that. I have to say I will definitely do the eyes like this again, this was by far the easiest way to do it. And the most effective. His eyes look a lot shinier and a lot nicer than the frog's eyes, which I'll show you in a second. Really, really pleased with how his eyes turned out. Now I'm putting him under the UV light for 2 minutes. And here he is with his beautiful shiny eyes. They look so shiny, they almost look wet. Gorgeous. Really pleased with them. And then here's the frog, so that's the two together. And if you can see there, the frog's eyes don't look as glassy and as shiny. And here's the pictures of them at the end, and the frog in the plant and on the blanket so you can get a good look at him. And there's the gecko in the plant and on the blanket so you can get a good look. And here you can see his eyes and the light on him. Beautiful. Thank you for joining me. See you again soon.